Nick Shore, who's out in the audience, um, he will definitely mention, I don't want to steal any of his thunder, but I know that before anything can be done, whether a private entity or a public entity, um, rates have to be raised and considered in terms of um, if a private entity were to come in, rates are going to go up likely. And if the public were to continue to maintain it, rates would have to be considered. But before you do that, um, doing so responsibly, doing so with respect to um, citizens that may be on a fixed income, how do you do that affordably? And so, one recommendation that you're going to hear from Mr. Shore in this regard is making sure that a rate consultant analyzes and does that in a very responsible way for your constituents. Um, Number two, I think before you can get to some of the options that you may want to consider, you really have to evaluate what actually is needed. And I think Attorney Perry mentioned that an engineer had been engaged to determine exactly what the needs are in terms of cost. Is it a $50 million problem? Is it a $100 million problem? Is it a $150 million problem? So you really have to determine exactly what the issues are. What can be value engineered right now in terms of um, a stopgap, in terms of some of the more significant issues? If that's a $15 million problem, then that may be a conversation with Nick Shore and I about structuring some debt that can immediately provide that solution and doing that in a very um, in a logical and affordable way for your constituents in terms of whatever that initial need is. I think that's important. But getting back to the P3s, um, what that essentially means is that you are tapping the private sector. You're tapping the private sector to come in and be a meaningful partner with you. It's a step down from just the outright sale, but it certainly involves a long-term management contract. It could be a concession for several years, and you may need local and private to enter into that type of concession agreement. But there are ways to have public input. There are ways to continue to access cheap or tax exempt financing by bringing in a nonprofit or creating a nonprofit structure where you might have members of this board and this body and members of the community to participate in that nonprofit. And that nonprofit is still able to access tax exempt financing, but ultimately there's a private entity that operates the system, professional operator that can go out and hire and procure staff, et cetera. Um, and then when those improvements are being made, um, they won't necessarily have to go through the same bidding laws, procurement laws that a government entity would have to go through, but still be able to access tax exempt financing. So that's something just to think about as you're weighing your options. Um, there is under that same P3 model, um, you've got the long-term operation, long-term maintenance. And so at that point, the city is sort of out of the day-to-day operation, and it's that private manager maintenance company with input from a nonprofit organization. That's simply one model. Or you could simply go the private model, remove the nonprofit, and just, the city would still ultimately own, but you're simply giving away I guess, the operation of the facility. And so that's taking the city out of that process. Um, one thing that I did mention in terms of valuating the amount of the certificate, valuating the amount of the current grid, valuating the amount of the improvements that are necessary, if you were to do an outright purchase. I mean, I think everything should be considered and you should look at and weigh all of the options um, as a city decision and as a business decision. But if whatever that amount is, um, there may be other avenues to explore with respect to economic development opportunities. I would love, in a perfect world, for there to be a data center that was looking at property right now in the certificated area, and they would come in with $15 billion of investment and just make this happen. But that's just a hypothetical. But as I say that, there are data centers that are looking around the state of Mississippi. Um, any event, I do think there are multiple opportunities, and what I would like to do is just pause here, take any questions, but I would like to present this board and this body, this mayor, with sort of an outline of different approaches, and then possibly work with the city to kind of go through those approaches. If an RFP is necessary, proactively making sure that we get ahead of things, work with the Public Service Commission to show them that the city is on the right path, looking at exploring every opportunity. Soliciting bids for operators, soliciting proposals for a true P3 model, soliciting actual pitches for ideas based on, one thing that will be important is allowing, um, some objective auditing of the system to understand where we are. That will help and determine any private entity, what makes the best and highest use of the system. But all that said, I really do think that we can be of value to help the city get this turned around and do so very quickly. And I'll pause there for any questions.
The only question that I have, and I think is just, if it was typo, but when you mentioned about evaluating the certificate and all of the equipment, power, structure, whatever you mentioned, purchase, was that purchase meant to be sale? If you're going to sell it, or did you mean purchase?
I think those options are all within this board's purview, and all of them need to be weighed as viable options. I do think I would like to lay out as many options as possible, and then you can sort of look at it as a menu of different things. I do think, potentially considering a P3 model might be a good idea, because you will not necessarily be doing the outright sale, but you will be bringing in private capital through some type of concession model and monetizing it and getting what needs to be done for your constituents, but at the same time, having that ownership. And maybe it's a 50-year concession agreement, but it just depends on what the market will dictate. And so, to your question, I think it will be important for the capital market to determine the value of the current grid and to evaluate what improvements are necessary. And so that will go into any kind of appraisal of the system. And so if the outright sale is something that you want to consider, I think that same analysis applies, that you have to know those numbers and you have to evaluate that and do it in a way that makes the best sense for the city. But at the same time, the private market is going to dictate. And so the more interest I think that you can get and generate from that P3 model standpoint, the better.
And one other thing that I was going to ask is that, have you had time to look over the bill that Senator Whaley presented? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe it said, now we're in receivership now, we've been put in receivership now, but I do believe that it says in there that even though the bill itself said that we are to be given some time to make the corrections. Am I correct there?
To be clear, we're not in receivership officially yet. That process is, their finding was that they were going to begin the process on it.
Okay.
And if they do a petition, anytime there's a petition done, you can counter petition to or respond to the petition in a way that says give more time. And I think that pursuant to the statute, it doesn't say that it's discretionary. I think we have to give them some time to be able to rectify some of the things that were done. They issued their order, or their findings rather, not the order, findings on August 28th. And there's no way to incorporate their findings in a positive way for that utility district within 35 days. It's just, okay, there's no way to apply.
And I misspoke, then if I said, I guess listen to the news media and so forth. So anyway, that's the claim that we've been in receivership. Listen to all the media that we got available to us, and that's what was put out here. Yeah, but I did just want to make sure that we were reading the same thing.
That's correct. I think it's Senate Bill 2453, and some of the language that was added to that particular statutory section talked about any court-initiated receivership for municipality-owned or operated electric utility providing service greater than 1 mile. And so they do have, and so one of the roles of the receiver, should that take place, is to make recommendations for long-term solutions, including but not limited to the rehabilitation, sale, merger, or dissolution. And that's sort of why we've been talking, and hopefully why I'm here to mitigate the concerns or address the concerns really of the Public Service Commission, to show that the city is doing its best to heed those concerns and be proactive and look at some long-term solutions that make sense. And Nick, when he addresses the board, he's going to talk about the rate consultant. I think that's vitally important. I think nobody wants a higher utility bill. However, if you're getting service that's commensurate with that bill, then you're likely to pay for it. We're working on a water transaction in another city in Mississippi, and they are getting ahead of the deferred maintenance issues. And as a result, that same rate consultant is doing things to make sure that those rates are affordable. So incrementally now, for years, they have tweaked those rates every year just a little bit. And so for a new issuance that this city is going to have to undertake, because they're going through a consent decree, they're going to get tweaked again, and we will slowly raise those rates over time. And just like anything with the price of eggs or the price of a vehicle or a price of clothing, things are becoming more expensive. And as the demand for power becomes more vital with our smartphones, with our computers, with the necessity to have cold air blowing in your home for more and more months, energy and access to it is something that's of great necessity. So we would love to work with the city to, because it's going to have to happen anyway, but that's something I think that would show the Public Service Commission that you're taking a significant and meaningful and thoughtful step in the right direction in terms of those rates. But it has to be done in a way that is thoughtful and affordable. And so there's a hedging, so to speak.
Could anyone else have any questions for Attorney Harrison?
This scope of engagement for his company, is that for what he's just explaining to us? This is my first time seeing it sometimes.
That was for the general city side, so he'll come back up once we get back on the general city budget.
But this is Butler and Snap.
Yes.
Right.
He'll come back under the general city.
That's for a separate matter that Nick and I are going to talk about.
That's what I was thinking this was, so that's what I was trying to ask.
No, this is something separate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not, I was thinking.
What I would like to do, though, however, Mayor and Board, is come back at another time and present an engagement that thinks through all of these different solutions and walk through that and answer any questions. And if I need to meet or talk to any of you individually, happy to answer any questions in that regard as well, because I do think there are some viable solutions out there. And I think it would be helpful to address those and work with the commission and try to mitigate any things that they may be trying to do to get ahead of it.
I'm in total agreement with you, because I do want to look at every option available to us to make this utility company solvent again. And, you know, I've often said to people that the direct sale of it is not going to be the answer. Because even if you sell it, it's going to take time for them to make corrections as well. We've been working on making corrections ourselves and coming up with a proposal on how we can do it and how we can also reduce that debt that we're in, but yet make it a viable operation for where we can keep the house clean, the department as it is. But there's more than one way to skin a cat, is there?
Sure.
So I would like to look at every option that we have, and if the board's in agreement with it, I would like for you to maybe come back with this, and give us some other options and ideas that we can look at, and at least let the Public Service Commission see that we are trying to move forward in an effort to correct the issue that we have here.
I think when you hear from Mr. Shore, one of the first steps, along with me coming back, and maybe we can do that simultaneously, would be to talk about the rates and the rate consultant, and that signals that you're not doing it ad hoc. You're just not throwing a rate out there, but you're doing it in a way that makes sense. Because that, you know, if a private, I mean, they will get raised regardless. Private company, the difference in the government and versus a P3, you can infuse it with private capital as well, but at the same time with the P3, you're not actually conveying away ownership. You may be divvying away your rights to control it, but not necessarily owning it. And there may be some type of revenue share that we can negotiate as well. So everything should be on the table in terms of trying to get it right shipped.
All right. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, so you did say we are not in receivership yet, right?
Yeah, right. The PSC made the recommendation to start. The quote was, we're starting the proceedings necessary to have the utility department placed in the receivership. That's their recommendation. But once that has to be done by a petition to Chancery Court pursuant to the statute. In so doing, there are responses that we have. And I'm not trying to make a rosier picture of it. Neither am I trying to split hairs, but the major point to it is kind of twofold. Number one, the recommendation from the report spoke about things that weren't in the statute, which number one was trying to come up with some form of a forced sale. Second thing was asking to divide the part of the utility department that serviced outside of the city limits. And then the third thing was a recommendation for a possible cooperative. But it's just like any other takings. When you own property, there are multiple property rights that might go with something. And with a municipal public entity like the utility department, you have licensing rights, or what they call certificate. So if you got a certificate in every area, that you have the ability to provide services. That's something that's not given to you freely. That's something that you own, just like if it was a right to drill or something like that. You have a right to that certificate. Or I think the example that's more applicable is like if you've ever been to a big city, Chicago or something, you see the taxi cab. Taxi cab itself might be worth $30,000. But they have that little placard, which is the certificate that says that you can operate that taxi cab. Well, that might cost that company $300,000 per cab, because that's the real thing that makes you make your money. So when that question came up by one of the members of the commission, that was something that he was asking pointedly towards the people who drafted that recommendation or what have you. The findings that they had was, well, what is the value of it? And so the lady never answered that question because she didn't want to inform, because it's quite valuable. That's what he's saying now, that it might need capital infusion, but it has a great deal of value. And if I can, I want to speak towards you, Mr. Harrison. I also was for another, I represent another entity, governmental entity, and we went through a time of just like everybody else, the global pandemic. And when we went into the pandemic, we very one way, and then as far as the financial soundness from other things that were done in boards preceding, but through some of the guidance working with members of government consultants and with Mr. Harrison, we came out on it with a better bond rating at this point. I don't know if we had shared that with you today, but those are things that I'd like dealing with the people there. I found that the different recommendations have been solid as far as, well, this avenue might not make sense, but this avenue might. And so because of that, that was the reason that we had the conversation about the people that are here. But as it relates to Mr. Harrison, particularly, I've worked with him, and, I find I have a lot of confidence in some of the things that he has as far as ideas that could help the utility department and the general city. So I give him a pat on the back. I wanted to do it. He didn't ask for that, so for that advertising. He's a good man.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So did you share any information with us? So he's gonna come back to that. I mean, give us an overview. But is there anything in writing?
Utility staff don't have anything, like, he may want to come back and give us some. This is,
I'm just.
he was here tonight with, the other consultant, Mrs. Bro, so he was just giving us this overview now, so it's not anything for us to look at right now, he will come back with some. Okay, now we'll go to item number 3, general city proposed budget. I'm going to turn it over to Madam Clerk here.
So I received, a proposed balanced budget on Friday afternoon, so I received it on Saturday morning. But, right now, as of now, it is balanced, and if you all have any recommendations or changes, you can call and let me know what we'll work with those numbers. And, move the form from whatever direction that you would like as far as the proposed budget goes. And tonight I'll be asking for an adoption of the tax levy for the city of Holly Springs and for the Holly Springs municipal separate school district. Our overall meals for this year is at 99.52, and it's down from 103.52, so it's going down 4, I'm sorry.
Repeat that, please.
Our old village total 103.52, that's the city and the school together, and the new is 99.52.
Can you tell us what the breakdown between the two village rates are, Schofield versus the city? How much is Schofield versus the city?
The general city fund, 35.77 mils. The section 2.21 fire protection fund, section 3. Debt service, 3.04 mils.
I'm sorry, just the total for the city and the total for the school district.
The city is 39.02, and that will leave the school at 60.
At what, ma'am?
60.
60?
0.5.
60.5?
I don't want to say it.
At 60.5?
Hold on one
Hold on
second.
just a second, too, trying to add.
The school will be 60.5. And the general city, 39.02.
Need a motion to accept the village.
To adopt the resolution fixing the tax levy.
Is there a motion to adopt the resolution fixing the tax levy? It's been moved by Alderman Schiff. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That's second by Alderman Moore. Any other discussion? All in favor, please do a roll call.
Alderman Hodges,
Yes.
Alderman Jones absent, Alderman Schiff,
Yay.
Alderman Moore,
Yeah.
Alderwoman Fairweather,
Yay.
Thank you. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Again, these shall close against.
and the next, item on the agenda is, Mr. Nick Shore with Government Consultants and Mr. Trey Harrison with Butler and Snow. And this is for the two notes that we spoke about in, the previous meeting. And this one is for the up to the 600. And there are 3 documents on your desk for you.
You want to read the resolution, or you want me to just go ahead and explain a couple of things first? Shot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Do you want us to proceed?
yeah. Hey, good evening. I'm Nick Shore, Government Consultants. Trey mentioned me a little bit earlier, right? I do municipal advisory work for cities and counties and school districts and a lot of places around the state, right? So we have been crash coursing a couple of things here, looking through some information. There's 2 main functions. Let me just be clear, right? There's 2 main functions of government. There's governmental side, right? Public safety, streets, public works, and then enterprise, utility, water, sewer, gas, electric, those types of things, right? So we're spending some time looking at the governmental side of things right now, right? Because electric, utility, there's a lot of things that are happening, right? A lot of conversations about that. So right now, what we're focusing in on is on the governmental side of things. Looking at how that budget's going to be shored up into, and Madam Clerk, right? There is no money being transferred from utility in this budget that we have right now on governmental side, right? Right, so we want to make sure that in most governments, right, most areas, we want to focus in on how we can make government operate on those 2 different spectrums, right? And so we're going to spend some time going through that. We're going to spend some time timing cash flows, looking at a lot more precise information related to property taxes, sales taxes, fines, forfeitures, all the different things that are part of normal governmental side of operations. On the enterprise utility side, water, sewer, gas, electric, those things, Trey had mentioned earlier, there's a city in Mississippi that we're working with on some water and sewer type deals. And they have a rate consultant that is one of the top tier entities in the country. And it turns out they also do electric as well. They have some familiarity with TVA on the regulatory side and a few different things. I don't want to get into too much detail about it. Trey brought some good options, I think, and some discussion points on there. I think the first thing that I would do is have a rate consultant look at not only electric, but water, sewer, gas, all across all of those spectrums, right? Because no matter what impacts there are, it's all based off of different rates and different parts of the enterprise fund, right? We pay a property tax bill, we pay a garbage bill, and we pay water, sewer, gas, electric. We pay all those bills, right? And so my first advice on that end, on the enterprise side, would to be bring a company in, bring a firm in that specializes in this and look at all facets, right? And they aren't, not only do they look at the rates, right? They also look at how it costs to operate a system, how it costs to expand and improve a system. That all gets detailed into their report. I have a slide deck that I'll forward on to the mayor and to the clerk for y'all to look at. I don't know where things stand with some other folks or so, but this group is one of the biggest and one of the best in the country. I think it's worth a shot to sit down with them and have a conversation, and talk about their services and review what they do, because I think it's gonna take a really detailed look across all of those things, kind of figure out what opportunities, all the opportunities that Trey talked about earlier, are, like he said, is benchmarked on what the rates look like, right? And I wouldn't want to look at rates of just electric. I want to look at water and sewer and gas. Look across everything, right? It's healthy to take a deep dive. We're going to do it on governmental. We're going to do it on enterprise. I'd rather spend the time to do all of that at the same time, right? And then however things, I would say play out from there or move from there are going to be decisions that are going to be made, obviously, right? But I think we would not only get an understanding of the rest of the functions of government, water, sewer, gas, and those areas, we're also going to look at governmental at the same time and be prepared for whatever option that comes in the future. So I would encourage this board to do that. There's a lot of interesting things that I think that are in front of y'all. And it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time, a lot of effort. But it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it in the end, I think, right? So back to the governmental side of things, there's a resolution that's brought before this board today. And Trey will explain the resolution from a legal stance. I'm an accountant, I'm a finance person, I'm not a lawyer, so I'll leave it off to him to explain those types of things. But it mentions a short-term note for some short-term funding on the governmental side, right? City currently has 3 general obligation bonds outstanding. 2 of those are governmental in nature, streets and a police building, right? We spoke a little bit about, we're going to revise some things in the governmental side of the budget, get things a little bit more efficient, move some things around. I think that we can gain some efficiency here. Right now, as it stands on the GO side of things, the city has $7,512,000 of borrowing capacity on the GO. This note is GO. It's gonna 690,000 or so, right? Would reduce that by a set amount, but we focus in on that, right? We look at the other 2 debts are gonna pay off. We have one paying off in 2 years, one paying off in 3 years. This would be a 5-year note, so we carry a little bit longer. But we look at those opportunities and those things just the same. It was mentioned before about revenue debt. The city has roughly about 10 million in pure GO capacity before you start taking down debt, right? We have 7,512,000 as stands right now. That GO debt is built, in my opinion, is built for governmental operations. I need public safety, I need equipment, public works, streets, those types of things, right? Revenue side, they're supposed to be business type, self-sufficient. You'd look at rates to figure out what coverage you had to be able to generate debt on that side. Sometimes those things get intermixed, and that's just the force of how things occur. There's different necessities and different reasons to do those different things, right? But what we're talking about today is a short-term note to help the governmental side of things, right? So we have some things in the budget that's changed a little bit. We need to jumpstart some cash flow issues. We want to kind of separate the utility governmental operations, and to get there, we're going to have a little bit of cash flow hurdles we got to get through, right? And so this note is designed to help with that. I won't say that it's going to solve all the problems here. There may be some more opportunities and maybe some more things that we have to do, that we look at doing. This is kind of the first step on getting things moving in the best way that we think we can get them with what we know right now.
I think that's mentioned the previous 4 years.
Yes. So again, we mentioned differences, right? Government, 2 main functions of government, governmental and enterprise, right? And so the budget was filled with a lot of things that were moving between both of those entities. Right now, we don't have any of that money moving back and forth. However, there probably will be at some point. There's different types of things and different reasons why, from a governmental standpoint, we move monies, we transfer monies, called interfund transfers, right, from utilities to general. We're clearing all that out right now, and we're going to build that up as it's needed, as it sees fit. I think right now we don't want to move those monies over because, one, they're not really designed to be standardized budgetary, right? They're designed for certain purposes, such as if you have a state revolving loan for water and sewer, drinking loans, water pollution loans, those types of things, right? Those are paid through withholding of sales tax. Sales tax is a governmental form of revenue. And so we transfer the amounts equal to that so that we can make governmental side, the general fund side of things, solvent from where those monies come from, right? And so if those things are existing and those things are there, we're going to implement those things kind of from a very low standing point getting forward. Everything needs to stay a utility. Everything needs to stay on government for the time being. We can get things cleared up and slowly start to bring those things back together in the most efficient way manner, right? So in the past couple of years, the budget had a lot of moving parts between those funds, a lot of due froms, a lot of interfund loans. We need to unwind that, I think, in my opinion, get things shored up, pured up, and then start to move those things in the right direction as we see fit that they need to be moved in the right direction. If that makes sense. I teach a 4-hour municipal finance class, so we can, if you guys are good for the next couple of hours, we can dig into. It's a lot of high level information, it's more than I get to in a lot of meetings, but.
Just one more thing, and the number that's in here, the 600 some odd, that's based on the what? Can you explain?
Yes, so there's a short-term note, which is a note that cities and counties can both borrow, and Trey will give you the legal definition of it, right? But it's, any city or county can borrow up to 1% of it's the greater of 250,000 or 1% of your total assessed valuation, right? So your assessed valuation jumped this year, went up, which is great, right? It's been incrementally going up year after year over some years. And so 690,000 is the maximum amount that you can borrow under the 5-year note authority. It's paid over up to 5 years in equal annual installments of principal and interest. In this case, it's going to be a taxable 5-year deal because we're going to use it for just general city needs.
Yeah.
So there's a legal definition that goes into that, and Trey can define that as well too. And so as we move some things between general fund, debt service fund, some other areas, we're going to try to tuck this into the debt service fund and fund it from that way. Get it out of general fund. I like to separate my checking account from my savings account, right? And so we're going to work on getting these funds organized and getting things in the right position where we need to be them at, right? This is going to be a tough deal. This has been mentioned before. The city has not had an audit in quite some time, right? A lot of cities in Mississippi haven't had audits in quite some time, right? This is a challenge that's been an issue across the state for a long period of time. And there's been a lot of things that are going on about them and a lot of issues related to it, this, that, and the other, but we're going to do our best to get what we need to get when we need to get it, tackle it as efficient as we can, and start really getting some things organized, hopefully as best we can in a short period of time. And any other questions, or Trey, you want to just handle the resolution? We can get some more questions from there.
And you needed board action on the engagement.
Yeah. So yes, Attorney Perry, Mayor Terry Board, this resolution that's before you, it's the resolution, and then with it are 2 exhibits that you would also be approving. Those exhibits include the engagement letter for government consultants, and the second exhibit is the engagement letter of Butler Snow. And so the resolution authorizes the city to go ahead and go out with this financing, which are for necessary purposes, and that's the legal language that we need. If you'll see in that real second whereas clause, meet mandatory expenditures required by law, which expenditures are necessary for the immediate preservation of order and public health within the city. And that's the language that we need. This resolution also includes the notice of sale, and so it authorizes the municipal advisor to go out and begin soliciting bids from banks. And so they will do everything in their power, notwithstanding the audits, to find a bank that will purchase this and do so in a competitive way to try to get the best interest rate for the city possible. Other than that, possibility, we'd likely be coming back to the city on October the 7th to open bids. at that point, and then closing shortly thereafter once we validate the bonds here in Marshall County. So I'll pause there for any questions.
Want to have any questions?
Yes. You mentioned audits. I'm assuming because we are behind on audits, it's probably going to affect maybe the interest rates. Could be some risk for the city. Well, should it?
To the bank, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna do the best we can do with unaudited financial information, different things to talk to banks about, right?
Yeah.
There's no, the only security on any governmental loan is the promise of future inflow of resources, right? So you're promising that we're gonna have revenue sufficient to pay our bills and pay our things from there, right? And that's always the thing that you need to talk to a bank about. That's what we talk, that's the discussions that we have, is we need to look at what we currently, how we operate right now. Does it fit within there? And then that promise that you're gonna provide future inflow of resources is gonna be sufficient enough to pay the loan kind of from there. And it's gonna be a challenge. It sure will.
We can't do anything about that.
No, sir.
But
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And I'll add this. I'm working now with another city in the state that is also behind on audits, and we have successfully found a purchaser with a really good rate, and we're simply working through the mechanics, as Nick suggested, internal financials, cash flows. If you can provide them the necessary financial information, less an audit, they can likely get comfortable. And I think we can do that with Jericho.
That request that you're making is not in anything, it's on the utility department, it's only on the city.
Correct.
Audit that we have, and that's the information that you need.
That's correct.
That's right, yeah. This is a general fund, this is the governmental side.
Right.
Situation, it's not an enterprise side situation.
I guess the question I need, and I wonder if everyone here problem from the board is looking at it to say, what is all this laying for? Then I work time saying, Attorney Perry, have you had enough time to operate, to look at these, and what's your advice on it?
I look at them, and of course, I'm heavily in favor of trying based on the needs of the city currently. And, like I said, it's one thing to vet and look at it and second guess a lot when I had dealt with, but I had dealt with before. And, I know that they have the reputation for doing the work they do. And I can speak to the fact that in the past they've been here. And so I'll say that. And I have to, but to answer your question, when I said how I would do the engagement letter in the standard language, engagement letters.
Because it is a lot to hear for us, and we haven't had an opportunity, so depending on you to say that you do agree. So at this time, we need a motion to accept the resolution, and we do both of them at the same time, please.
We did two separate things.
One, two, is the engagement letters here, resolution. So first, I'm asking for the motion to accept the resolution. They have to go private.
I think you can take them at the same time. It's just one resolution, and then they have the engagement letters. Yet the engagement or the resolution contemplates both the letters.
All right, so the motion
Tell them
to
this
accept all
doesn't
of the
lock in
documents
anything,
that
either.
have
This is just
the
get the process.
resolution and the
There's
engagement
still action to be
letters.
taken.
There, motion.
So the-
Been moved by Alderman Shipp, is there a second?
That's second.
Second by Alderman Moore, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. We'll need roll call. Roll call.
Alderman Hodges. Yay. Alderman Jones, absent. Alderman Shipp.
Yay.
Alderman Moore.
Yay.
Alderman Mayor Winters.
Yay.
And Mayor Terry, if I may add, this does not lock in the board and commit the board to do anything. This simply starts the process. So if this body decides in the middle of this that you don't want to go forward, we don't get paid and the process stops.
All right, it is customary, all opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
If we have any further business to conduct tonight. You're not speaking out of the meeting, so please.
Money is for the adoption.
That's why I was asking the question, because we had concerns about salaries. Is that true or not? Organization.
And you asked him, but when the Madam Clerk asked, was there any question about anything, I didn't hear anything. So, but now if you're saying you want to go and discuss Sarah, don't get make some change to it, I don't have any problem with it.
We need to,
I know he's still there, they hear what I'm saying. Okay, so do we do
There a motion to go into closed session to determine the need for an executive session.
motion? I move.
Is there a second? The move by Alderwoman Hodges, is there a second? Second by Alderman Schiff. All in favor, sign of aye. Opposed, nay. As every motion here, we'll be going into closed session to discuss necessity to go into executive session.
There's no say, why, I don't know back. That's something that. And so, you didn't get the valuation.
I don't understand where to take the. Look at the full.
Estimated. Just not actual.
I'm scared of the question.
Right.
Trouble is the EIA, the impression you generate $22 million a year. The EIA has the impression we generate $22 million a year. So that's what this means now. That's a good entity. That's why I'm actually Texas.
Little bit of time.
We'll see. Seriously, first to the 860. So the Form 860 is a federal where the GM has to submit yearly citizen revenues. Last year, it's the federal holiday. It tells you how big the bond is, what certificate you sign to, if it is on that. No. That's the electric motor. So that's 31 million for one reading. One, two, E25. Yeah. And the question is, if that's what you're generating, yeah. I mean, it's $10 million this month, it's going to be $12 million next month, $14 million a month after. So how can that just off the ground? I'll see you do it. Okay. Mark. Yeah. It's $2 million.
I bet it works. She said, "Oh, hold on. Hello. Oh, I could see you going back down. How long is it?
This is a 30 people data.
There was a motion made by Alderman Shields, second by Alderman Hodges, to enter into executive session to discuss issues related to job performance and the possible, related to reduction in job force.
Okay, boy.
Thank you all for being patient with us. We come back into this session, open session. I'm going to ask Madam Clerk if you would read the results of the closed session.
There was no action taken.
Thank you. Is there any other business to bring before the board? Anything else to join?
Motion that we adjourn.
Motion by Alderwoman Barry Weather. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Moore. All in favor, stand back. Oh, nay. As David motion. Thank you.